I'm making a survival first-person shooter game where you and your friends fight off hordes of demons in order to survive. Since the first devlog, I only had one entity in my game and it was looking kinda questionable. So I'm going to remake it as well as add new creatures and a giant demon that is going to add even more difficulty to my game. The first order of business for me was to get arms inside my game, and my focus will be on the soldier character for now. If you don't know, there are going to be 3 unique characters in my game that the players are going to be able to choose from, where each have a different playstyle and abilities. One being the soldier as a default character to choose from, a tank for a more beefy playstyle, and a supporting character to act as a healer and a team player. So with the arms in, I implemented some smooth weapon sway as well as aim tilt that shows the barrel move behind. I'm doing all of this procedurally and trying to avoid hard coding any animations, as I want to be able to add these scripts to any of my guns to make it work on the fly. The idea for the weapons in my game will be that there are going to be common weapons and you can upgrade them to be higher tier like rare or epic, as well as find different weapon loot off of defeating bosses. The other weapon I have right now equipped for the soldier is the pistol. So I attached it to the arms and got it working. I need to stop calling these guns generic names such as assault rifle and pistols. So I made a basic UI and decided to name the assault rifle AN95 and the pistol AMP36. Alright, so far my game has had just a low poly look. And recently, I've been looking at games such as Breath of the Wild, Borderlands, and Forgive Me Father. These games have a stylized cel-shaded look, and I think I want my game to have a slight cel-shaded look as well. This will also help cover up the lack of 3D modeling and art skills that I have. So I started researching shaders and started working on my own, and as soon as I knew it, I had spent 3 days of my life trying to figure this stuff out and it wasn't even looking good. So I ended up just taking the easy route and purchasing this toon shader, which has customizability and honestly just makes my life easier. Before adding more creatures, I wanted to implement a wave system, and I didn't want it to be a simple system where it's just generating the same amount of enemies every round. Instead, we can make a cost-based system where a stronger demon would cost more to spawn than an easy common creature. We can then scale the difficulty as the waves pass, adding more available points for the cost system to choose from, which would allow for things like boss fights to take place. Now, back to the demons. First, it was time to say bye-bye to the original Ligma and introduce you guys to the new and improved one. This one just looks so much better and I'm happier with it. Since the creature's name was Ligma, it was only right that I added 2 melee brothers for him that would rightfully be named Sungma and Bothma. Bothma is a modified version of Sungma and does more damage and is overall stronger. I got the animations from Mixamo and set up animation events for the attack that would trigger damage to the player. Also, I need to shout out Hostiniz from my Discord for helping me out with the model. Speaking of damage, the player screen now shakes and flashes red when taking a hit. I plan on making it so that when the player's health reaches 0, they'll go into a state where they can be revived by their teammates. I had realized that the movement still felt lacking and slow to me, so I cranked the speed up to be faster and scrapped the idea where you have to hold shift to run. Now, instead, I plan on making the shift button to do a certain ability depending on which character the person is using. For the soldier, I decided to go with the dash, so now it can allow for some evasive maneuvers around the demons. I was debating if I should implement wall running, but instead decided to go with just wall jumping because wall running might just be a bit overpowered against the melee creatures. So with the wall jumping, dashing, sliding combined, you can have some shoo movement. Before I add the ranged demons, we've been staring at this prototype area for far too long, and I think it's time to tell you guys my new map idea. Originally, in the first devlog, I had made some of the map, but I didn't like the direction it was going in. It felt a bit boring to me, and it didn't really give off the void bound look, which is the name of the game by the way, and you can actually wishlist it on Steam right now, link in description. So let me tell you guys about the premise of the game. You have a crew of 3 astronauts that are traveling through space, and you guys end up getting sucked into a black hole. On the other side of the black hole, it's the void, hence the name Voidbound. The void contains floating islands and lower gravity than Earth, and since the 3 crew members were military trained, they have a chance of fighting off the vicious demons that live there. But before we continue, making games requires knowledge of programming and computer science concepts, and that's where today's sponsor, Brilliant comes into play. Their extensive catalog includes thousands of short lessons on topics ranging from math, data science, and computer science, where new material is added in each month. Brilliant takes complex topics and makes them digestible with visually compelling interactable lessons. I know it's something I find useful because of my TikTok attention span. You'll find yourself actively participating rather than staring at pages of text. The platform is perfect for those with busy schedules. You can grasp new concepts in bite-sized chunks with as little as 15 minutes a day and learn anywhere, anytime. So if you're looking to get started with programming to make games or broaden your knowledge on any of these topics mentioned, Brilliant is the perfect platform for you. Explore all that Brilliant has to offer free for 30 days by visiting brilliant.org/UsmanDev. Be among the first 200 to sign up and you'll receive a 20% discount on an annual premium subscription. Thank you, Brilliant, and now back to the video. I started off modeling some islands and designing the starting area with the red pinkish atmosphere. A problem I'm running into is that since I'm not using Unity's terrain system, I can't just paint grass on the islands. So the other way is to use grass objects which use LODs for better performance, but I'd have to manually place the grass pieces on the island. So I ended up downloading this tool called Polybrush that lets you paint game objects, but I believe having this many game objects, despite them being LODs, may still cause performance issues, especially for the lower systems. I'll keep it for now, and maybe in the future I'm thinking to carve out a terrain underneath the island so that I can use Unity's terrain system to paint textures and the grass instead. I put in a spaceship with the smoke effect representing the area where your space team has crashed, and now it's time to get back to working on the enemies. So the next enemy I added was a skull. The skull will fly toward the player and wait, that's not supposed to be happening. As I was saying, the skull will fly toward the player and explode. Since the skull is floating, the built-in Unity's nav mesh system isn't really designed for flying enemies, so I had to implement a separate AI script for it. I ended up turning off certain collisions for the skull to fix it from bouncing off objects, but this also means that it can go through walls. I'll either add ghost type materials on it when going through objects so it looks like it's supposed to, or I'll figure out a better implementation which accounts for maneuvering around objects. Next up, I added a flying enemy that shoots projectiles. This uses the same flying enemy script as the skull, but instead will act as a ranged creature. At first, I had the enemy's ragdoll undead, but it wasn't feeling super satisfying. So I ended up changing it where they literally explode into a pile of blood. And so now killing the creatures feels much more satisfying. Next, it was time for the giant demon. So what I've been thinking is that as you progress through the map, unlocking more areas from the cash earned, you will run into these giant demons that would be boss fights. This one can be seen from the starting distance, and it does a ranged attack on you while you're far from it. So while you're busy fighting off the demons on the island, you need to be cautious of the rocks he's throwing at you. Also, this whole time we've been just a capsule running around with arms, so it's finally time to replace it with an actual soldier. I sort of got the inspiration of the look from the game Risk of Rain 2. I might change it up more later, but I think it's good for now. I worked on a new logo for the game and updated the Steam page so that it slightly looks a bit better than whatever this was. I'm going to keep updating it, so keep in mind that this is still a work in progress look. I have a lot of stuff planned, so make sure to wishlist the game. Subscribe to stay up to date, and I'll see you guys in the next one.